Welcome.
A vibe.
Welcome.
What up?
What is
everybody?
up? Thank you, everyone, for hanging in there while we figured out our time. There's a little bit of a miscommunication, but we are here, your favorite three cryptid, creepy people.
I was early. You guys said I was late, but
We thought you were.
I was early.
we're changing Bobby's cryptid corner time to 6:30 instead of 6 because we used to do it at 6:45, but that's a weird number to start at. So 6:30. And so it's better for Bobby because he has stuff going on. So that'll be our normal time. Before we start, I do want to say happy birthday to Pragmatic Partner. I know you're not watching anymore, but when you go back and watch this, tell her we said happy birthday.
Sick.
Absolutely. Yeah, Goat Vogue.
All right.
Strike a pose.
Bobby, Bibby, what are we here for today?
Oh, we're just gonna jump right into it.
Yeah, we're just gonna jump right into it. We have no show and tell. We have no guests. We are strictly cryptids tonight.
Well, it's funny you say we're strictly cryptids because tonight we're going to be talking about the melon heads, where that connotation's actually pretty debatable.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of those ones that, like, when I suggested we do melon heads, you guys were like, "What is that?" But like, if you go to the region where they're known, it seems like it's like, "Oh yeah, of course, the melon heads, right?"
Mm-hmm.
And the melon heads are ones that are that kind of dwell in that line, that blurry line between cryptid and urban legend. And granted, a lot of cryptids, do this, but this is very specific to more or less 3 locations, hyper specific to 3 locations. So Ohio, Michigan, and Connecticut. Whereas, like, I guess my point is, you have things like Bigfoot or even like, aquatic cryptids that are found all over the world, and you have so many accounts and so many, such an emphasis on the investigation part of it all, where the phenomenon of that kind of outshines the specific origins and stories and legends itself. Whereas urban legends, I would argue, especially in this case, kind of take on a life of their own, where the legend grows and morphs and gets co-opted and gets applied to various like a big giant viral game of old school telephone. So all that being said, the melon heads are more or less, I would argue, like 20% cryptid, 80% urban legend or folklore. Any thoughts so far, ladies?
I was like, so far I have to agree with you, because one thing I did in my research was I realized that they're not necessarily cryptids, because cryptids are more an animal, a species we don't know about. But these tend to be experiments gone wrong, children with a disease, stuff like that. And that doesn't necessarily scream cryptid to me.
Yeah, and as I was researching the melon heads this afternoon, 20 minutes ago, I was like, this would be a great cryptid for Halloween time, but it's not. It's more closer to Valentine's Day now.
Yeah, I'm leaning more towards urban legend.
All right.
Just like just urban legend,
way ahead of ourselves.
Cryptid.
Yeah, we're getting way ahead of ourselves here.
Well,
okay.
I agree. And we'll we can let the audience decide and all that. We'll factor sci-fi that at the end and all that stuff. But I just wanted to ask you guys, like, what, how do you define an urban legend? Like, what does that mean?
Ooh, so an urban legend to me would be like a community that has a story that they tell to scare the children and youth of the area from doing something.
Maybe, yeah.
That's my
doing
definition.
Something. I would say just passed down story of something that's creepy, but it's just a story. And normally with all urban legends, it seems like it depends on who you talk to. It's like, he had a claw, he knocked on the door. No, he had a claw and he stomped by the door, that kind of thing. Whenever it's something creepy and it varies,
can you get to
urban
it,
legend?
Babe?
Yes. So I think that it's like something that obviously, like I'd mentioned earlier, kind of snowballs and morphs to its own. It's always like, your cousin's sister's former roommate it happened to, and you swear by that kind of thing. There's no real like corroborating evidence at all. It's just like kind of in the zeitgeist. So it can be everything from like, you know, the kid that put Pop Rocks in a Coca-Cola and like his like blew up. He like blew up or whatever. Have you heard that one?
Mm-hmm.
Or
Yes.
it could be something more like hyper specific monster related, whether it be the man in the back seat with the hook or Melon head.
I always think of I Know What You Did Last Summer. If anyone like, I love those old 90s horror films. So
or Urban
and
Legend.
I Know What You Did Last Summer and or Urban Legend. Yeah.
Urban Legends. Yeah.
I was just talking about that post Scream pre-Saw era of the 90s.
That's my shit. That's like my favorite.
My not to go off on a tangent, but a friend of mine, and I'd never been a big fan. I mean, I haven't seen him in so long, but like a friend of mine's like a huge, and I respect his opinion. He's like a huge fan of the whole Final Destination series.
Interesting.
So I need to revisit.
Yes, I Know What You Did Last Summer. But that's what I loved about I Know What You Did Last Summer is in the scene where they're all together. It's like they're trying to tell the urban legend of the guy with the hook, and it's like there's 4 of them, and they all have a different version.
It's different version.
Basically the same thing, but it's like the details kind of slip around, and that to me is an urban legend where there has to be something underlying that has to be a little bit of truth.
That's what I was going to ask you. Do you think that it's like a basic foundation is generally found in truth, or do you had some, you know, old timer, really good storyteller, and then the people were kind of enthralled by the story and got passed down? Like, I think it could be a little bit of both, but I think a lot of these are based somewhat in truth.
Yeah, I think you have a good point.
Truth, but I think what it is, it's like that game of telephone. Like the more and more the story gets told, the details get slightly different, or like as it happens to people remember slightly different things. So I think that it's always all based in some sort of truth. I think it's just like how much it gets skewed from that point.
Yeah, like with the Pop Rocks and Soda Pop thing, like just using that as an example, like I'm sure there was some kid that did that and like got really gassy or sick or something.
And like got sick or something.
It got embellished
like
as
Willy Wonka.
Yes. Yeah, Willy Wonka.
Well, Jamie and I always talk about like you create your own reality kind of thing, right? And I think that we've all talked about when there's something possibly that doesn't exist, but when we all collectively agree and we're telling something over and over and over again, who's to say that it does not then manifest?
Yes,
so maybe it started off as something totally out of the realms, but then because it's been passed down and there are some people that are afraid, some people that get excited, therefore you're putting different types of energy into the story and it's being repeated over and over again. Who's to say that we don't like literally speak these kinds of things into existence?
So urban legends are almost like micro tulpas or micro egregores, right? Like if there's a consensus among like a network of people, even if it is acknowledged to be mythology, like on some level, we're going to get into some of these kind of eyewitness accounts, and you'll notice that they always like kind of preface, we're like, this is what I always heard they were, and then they go on to describe what it is they saw. And I thought that was interesting because it's like, okay, you're projecting what you've assumed that's within the geographical region as to what this thing could be, because that is the first place your mind goes, and I guess it makes the most sense or whatever. And that's where you got to have to kind of like really try to factor sci-fi your way through this stuff. And then, you know, you can get into other theories. I think we could come up with some other theories as to what this might be that hasn't really been explored. But
okay,
you know,
so I feel like we've really built it up. Yeah, we really built it up. So let's like get into
your
some
fucking
of the
intro.
potatoes.
We haven't even talked about what these things are, though. Well, let me just give you the Webster's dictionary definition of an urban legend: an often lurid story or anecdote that is based on hearsay and widely circulated as true. The urban legend of alligators living in the sewer. Oh, that's a good one too. So
that shit happens in Florida.
Also called an urban myth. So let's go over the basics of what a melon head is before we get into the more dominant legends behind it. What is this thing? Bigfoot piss. Okay. I'm drinking. Yeah, it's not far off, to be honest with you.
Damn it.
Fuck.
Yeah. So I think this picture on the left actually is a child with a medical condition called
Hypocephalus.
Syphilitis. It's supposed to be like syphilis, but it's like hydrocephalus.
Hydrocephalus.
Where like cerebral fluid builds up too much in your head.
Would you keep it? Would you keep it?
Yeah, of course.
You would keep it?
Yeah, I think it's a post birth thing too.
Yeah, it's like after birth. It's like not in birth.
I definitely wouldn't.
I wouldn't. Is that a hate crime?
Yeah, I was like, wait, I think that's officially.
That's never going to get old.
Hate crime in the fucking first episode. Jesus Christ. So this right here is a picture that's more traditional of what it looks like. Correct, Bobby?
Yeah, yes. humanoid creature with large, bulbous, or deformed heads that are said to inhabit the woods, dirt roads, and countrysides of Ohio, Michigan, and Connecticut.
Yes, babes.
Right? Hydrocephalitis. Is that what that person just said?
Yeah.
No. Yeah. Well, and Pride Magic says that he looks like Crowley's lamb.
Yeah, lamb. It totally does.
A lot of this information, I just want to give a shout out because I will be reading directly from some of the articles. Comes from.
Sorry.
Wow. You guys have some really great members of the audience.
Yeah, they're on our level.
I always lose my train of thought when you do that shit.
Sorry.
So a lot of this info comes from Cryptid Wiki, WeirdUS.com, and I'm always hesitant to reference Wikipedia, but I think if it's an urban legend, given what we just talked about, what an urban legend is, Wikipedia has got to be some sort of like
urban legend,
contemporary urban legend generator on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
So
100%, yep.
Or even creepy pastas and things like that. So. Let's go to Michigan first, okay? You got a picture of Michigan there? It's the one that looks like a mitten. You know, I didn't know that the Upper Peninsula was Michigan until I was like 27.
Well, I mean, I do. I have this one. We can add.
I don't know shit about Michigan.
I thought that was like Canada.
The triangle.
Until I was very old in life. Yeah. Okay. So Michigan, we're going to start in the middle here. Now, the Melon heads of Michigan are said to reside around Felt Mansion, which is in the southwest town of Lake Township, Michigan, right on the coast there of Lake Michigan. One story suggests that they were children with
syphilitis,
who lived at. Now, I want you guys to be, mental notes of all the motifs we're going to go through here because there's a lot of consistencies here. Lived at the Junction Insane Asylum after enduring physical and emotional abuse. They became feral and were released into the forest surrounding the asylum. Official historians, the Allegan County Historical Society, insist that this asylum never actually existed.
Yeah, it was never there. It was a jail.
There was actually a prison there. Now, maybe
they kept him in prison.
A prison and an asylum. We're thinking. I'm assuming that's the other thing I noticed about this.
Potato.
Well, yes, in the early mid-century, the 1800s, even there's really not much different there, if there is even now, but even more so back then. But that's the other thing I noticed is like I couldn't pinpoint a certain time frame on this on
any of these stories. That's the thing. All of the research, there was never like a lot of the things when we do the cryptids, there's like specific dates and there's times and locations, and this is like the general area, and there's no times or dates or references, and I think that's why
I know two different stories that have dates, but they're like rough. They're like years, so that's like,
that's what I'm saying. None of it's super pinpointed. There's not a lot of date information when it comes to this urban legend.
The closest I found is I found one guy that tried to, and we'll talk about Dr. Crow in a moment.
Yes,
he tried to check the records of the 30s and 40s to see if the guy existed, to which he couldn't find anyone. So that's another red flag. But the point is, I had a really hard time. Usually it's like the first thing they tell you is like the spring of like 1947. Even the Bell Witch, when we talked about the Bell Witch, that has a time frame on it. This doesn't seem to as
there's a book. There's not a book on this, but yeah, we're talking about the Feld's Mansion.
Yeah, right now we are the Michigan side of things, and
the mansion.
That's in Ottawa County.
Okay.
That was also the same tribe area where like the triangle, like the tribe, the Native American tribe was. Remember when we
where's
talked about
where's like the serpent mound? Is that in Michigan?
Do you remember that? It was the Ottawa tribe when we talked about the triangle there in Michigan. The what's it called? Bobby, you remember
I have
the
no
triangle
idea
area
I'm usually
in
pretty
Michigan?
up on my paranormal
We did
triangles.
there was the triangle, the Bridgewater triangle. The tribe there was like the Ottawas.
Yeah, but that's further east. I guess Connecticut can kind of
Michigan.
No, Bridgewater Triangle's like Rhode Island and Massachusetts, southern
Massachusetts.
Massachusetts, Michigan,
wrong again,
tomato,
Brie.
potato.
So it's interesting. The BB Goat says, "What if the Greys are just a government experiment gone rogue?" So that's interesting because that's one of the theories of what this is as well. It's
you want to take that side away, Jamie? Do you have any beats on that?
It's the tall tale sign that I think of all conspiracy theories where it starts off, and I believe Ohio specifically is where this is like a big conspiracy theory, is that it's governments who have done this.
Experiment of the gap theory.
Exactly. It's government. They were experimenting on people. The people escaped and now they run feral. Another variant of it is that it's government and the government didn't know what to do with them. So they dropped them there in that specific area. But the whole point was that the government did these experiments specifically to their brains in these areas. The lobotomies made them stupid. So they attack, but they're slow.
To be fair, like that wouldn't surprise me if that were the truth. And then if you get into even stuff like Bigfoot's, a lot of them are like, yeah, I had property outside of this like military base, and there were these like monkey men running around and shit. Damn. And it's always like the super paranormal ones too. It's like the ones that have like the predator cloaking abilities and stuff. But anyway, one story suggests, as far as the Michigan accounts go, or the Michigan lore goes, that the children actually lived in the mansion itself, but eventually they did end up taking refuge in the nearby cave systems after murdering their doctor and dismembering his body and hiding the pieces of his body
all over the mansion,
around the mansion. I like that one. There are multiple bad horror B movies based on this, which is a perfect setup for one.
So that's the very interesting too, because every single state who claims to have a like the claim to fame for this folklore, legend, cryptid, whatever we're calling it right now, also has a movie about its folklore and legend.
They almost, that's a good word, they almost try to stake a claim on it. They're like, we're planting our Michigan flag into this. This is ours. Or but let's segue into Ohio. That's just an Anunnaki skull.
I was like, that one, it was up there. I was like, that was an interesting one that they were trying to, again, but Anunnaki and these small things are very interesting that they have some similarities.
Actually, we also forget to mention that, yes, they tried to kill the doctor or whatever, but then what I heard from all these stories underlying of everything is that then they were basically left to the woods. Yeah. They had nowhere to stay. So they ran into the woods, turned to cannibalism, started breeding with each other.
We will get there.
And they got weird. Well, we got to mention that.
Let's just make a little list so far. We have some sort of abuse situation in like a confined institution. Some sort of escape from that is really what I'm gathering so far. If we move over to Ohio, the bulk of the stories are traced to Kirkland, which is a suburb of Cleveland. And very similar to the Michigan lore. It's actually a group of orphans this time who were experimented on by a shady figure.
Dr. Crow comes in.
Known as Dr. Crow. Again, no one's really been able to confirm whether or not this guy existed, but apparently legend has it the experiments were stuff like lobotomies, apparently injecting more fluid into their brains, to the point where they developed large hairless heads and malformed bodies. And again, much like the Michigan story, eventually the children killed Crow and retreated to the woods.
And there's also another story of that was a little bit more lighthearted in a sense, but it was that Mr. Crow had a wife And the wife ended up caring for the kids and really like took them under her wing and shielded them from the world. And that when Mrs. Crow died, the kids like went crazy and in the fuss of it ended up accidentally burning down the house that they lived in with Dr. Crow inside of it as well. And all of the kids and him ended up dying. And what actually haunts the woods are not the physical beings of the melon heads, but the ghosts of them.
We're Ohio, so now we're laying right?
a layer of ghost stuff on. You gotta remember too, like, and I'm not sure if I'm sure it's not an original theory, but I would imagine that like in certain time periods when you had children or people with like deformities or mental illnesses or things like that, like the community would just like if not kill them, like shun them off to the woods.
Or
exile. You exile them, and then these, and it's sad or whatever, but like these figures out in the woods would kind of legends would grow around them. Ultimately they were just, people that were rejected from the community that had some sort of condition. This is almost kind of almost reminiscent of that in a more contemporary context, I guess.
So I have a story that I read in 2001. That this person named Tony went out with his family to try to look for these melon heads out there in Ohio. And he basically went out at night looking for the damn things, and it was like a dark and creepy, scary road, and they didn't find anything, so he flipped a bitch and went back home. But then they noticed that there was a very creepy creature that was next to the car, and as he sped up, the creature kept up with the car. And this creature also had a giant, weird-shaped head that they basically think is exactly the basic description of a melon head. The only difference in this overall description was that it wasn't a small creature like
take a little step there.
We had to. Now I can't say melon. It was the basic
Oh, did I have to drink?
It was the basic description of said heads. The only difference here was that they weren't small.
Said heads.
Said heads. He surmises that this creature was about 5'7", so almost 6 feet tall creature that looks identical to the description of melon head. And so it was like identical but super tall, and so they were like, what the fuck? All of these description of these said heads are very short and creepy and like meh. But this thing was tall. It was almost 6 feet tall, running alongside of the car. And this was in 2001.
And I mean, that's another one of those things we notice a lot is like people always want to throw these cryptids, if we're going the cryptid route, in the like the flesh and blood camp a lot of times. But there's like multiple stories of like similar things with, Bigfoots, Mothmen, Dogmen, all that shit. Like, it was like this thing looked relatively, natural, not something I'd ever seen before, but, a physical creature, but for whatever reason, it could keep up with my car. So,
yeah, I mean, I don't know if it was, that was just one of the stories or whatever, but I imagine that even if it was something that evolved, eventually it would be tall. If this happened way back then, eventually, that's like how evolution works. I think I would imagine it to be tall, but who knows? This person goes out and tells a story.
This was just the Shaquille O'Neal or Dikembe Mutombo of melon heads.
5'7".
Not that tall.
I think they're probably around the size of like a shorter human, in like generally speaking.
Yeah.
Like maybe
Just a
like
human on the shorter
upper
side.
4s, lower 5s kind of thing.
Yes, Jerry is not here.
So top heavy though. I don't know how you walk around with that noggin and not just like fall on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
I do it every day. I'm fine.
We get a little bit different, but still relatively a lot of the same themes in Connecticut. This is generally focused around Fairfield County. Another asylum for the criminally insane, apparently burned down in 1960. And there were about 10 to 20 inmates that went unaccounted for after the fire. So the legend states that the Melonhead's appearance is a result of them having to, like you had mentioned earlier, Bree, resorting to cannibalism in order to survive the harsh winters of the region. Inbreeding, which is something we see. That's what I was thinking too. Like, if you want to go the skeptic logical explanation, like, I mean, I've seen Deliverance, man. That shit, or the Wild Wonderful Whites of West Virginia. Like, there are people out in the hollers.
I love them. Oh my God, you've seen that?
I know exactly
too?
what you're talking about. Yep.
You know,
I know exactly
it's
that
not.
family.
It's not unheard of in human history that
that was in the 60s, right?
The Wild Wonderful Whites of West Virginia.
No. The burning of the the place.
Yeah, in the 1960s. Yep.
So that's an. I mean, just imagine how many like lines of family do you think it takes to produce a really defected human in incest?
I don't know,
because I don't think it would be the first go.
I think the first go is generally a little off mentally, I would guess.
Right, but not Melonhead status.
No.
But that could easily be nurture over nature as well, because I mean, your mom and dad had relations, kind of fucked, or whoever.
Yeah.
So you're probably coming from an unstable environment in general, but who knows?
And I think what's also interesting about Connecticut too is they're not saying that it's children, perhaps, and they aren't saying that experiments happen to them. So they'll say that that's the one thing different about Connecticut when it comes to this story is you don't have a lot of instances of like these are abused children who were sick and had experiments on them. It's more the route of these were just people and stuff happened and they turned into these type of people and now these people exist.
Yeah, and in this mix between like this, Connecticut especially is interchangeable with like asylum versus prison. It gets told around campgrounds, inmates versus patients, stuff like that. It's almost like a Cropsey thing in a weird way, which was like a serial killer in, I want to say, New Jersey. That was
okay, so this is the best comment ever. Christopher Melon comes from a line of melons. Fuck, I love that.
One.
Hi, Cassie. Thank you, babes.
So I believe that's 2 that we're going to have to do on that one.
Oh, fuck.
Okay.
So probably the most unique version of the origin of the Melonheads is a Connecticut one, where it's claimed that they're actually descendants of a colonial era family from Shelton, Trimble, who were banished after accusations of witchcraft, causing them to retreat to the woods. As with the first version of the legend, this variation attributes to the appearance of the Melonheads to inbreeding. And they allegedly prey upon humans who wander to their territory. And it gets into that archetype of like we were saying. I mean, there's a whole horror genre, exploitation horror genre of like, evil, crazy rednecks in the woods, like
even the Hills Have Eyes. They look just like it.
Which is based on a real family in Scotland.
I was like, would you guys consider that like? Would that be like a hate crime against them?
Song next time.
Yeah, that's fine.
But yeah, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Hills Have Eyes, all that.
Not
kind
even
of shit.
Texas Chainsaw. Texas Chainsaw. No, he would take their face and pull it over. So that's not like he was actually deformed.
No, I'm talking more about like just the like derelict family off in the country because the whole family it's like a thing, right? It's like a.
But you're telling me that The Hills Have Eyes was based off of a real family?
Yeah, more or less inspired by a Scottish family. I can't remember the name of them off the top of my head. But yeah, look into that. That'll fuck you up.
That'll
make
your pussy wet.
Oh,
that'll make your pussy wet.
I hope not. But okay.
That'll make your pussy grow an extra eyeball.
No, that'll make your pussy throb. That's what it is.
An extra eyeball, like it already comes with one.
Jesus fuck. Okay.
Sorry, Bobby.
I haven't hung out with you guys in a while.
I was like, I know you forgot what it's like.
It's been a long break.
You're like pussy eyeballs. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna have a drink.
Yeah, baby.
Go for it.
Every time you say pussy eyeball.
No, every time you say
any more thoughts on the origins here, ladies?
No, I think that we've assimilated that there's many different stories. There's also a very big thread of similarities throughout all of them.
Yeah.
And I think at the core of it, there's a lot of different variations of this story, which is, I think, what we talked about in the beginning, what an urban legend or a myth kind of is all these different variations.
So let's talk
what?
Go ahead, Bree, sorry.
Oh, I was laughing at a horror show.
Oh, okay.
I think that the oldest story that we know is probably I don't know. Is that ageist to feel like the story that we can find that goes like the farthest back is probably the most accurate? I mean, they could probably fake number like time frames or whatever.
It might be the opposite of that.
You think it's the closest
I feel
to
like
us that's more accurate?
I think more recent events are more easily corroborated.
Yeah, but everybody likes to get attention nowadays. Like it's not.
That's true. So they did
back
then.
Yeah, but not like now. Like people fake
they didn't
the
have
dumbest shit
TikTok
now.
back then.
Exactly. Didn't have to think about followers and attention like that.
As you guys stream like 7 times a day.
I know, right?
It doesn't have to do with anything. We're not faking things over here.
No, I didn't say that. Okay, so let's talk about different variations because, like I mentioned in the beginning, we're gonna go into some more or less eyewitness accounts. But a lot of these folks like preface their account with their own version of how they understand the lore of the Melonheads. So again, all of these are off of. I highly recommend the site, by the way, weirdus.com. Probably read them.
And is that the same people who put on all the different books of like the weird Ohio?
I believe
or
so.
Weird, Weird New Jersey, where they go and they went and they eat. So you can go to this book, look by state, and all these crazy stories that come out of all of these locations.
Yes, I'm a big
fan
of that
urban
series.
Stories, cryptids, aliens, like all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, if you want to get into like the hyper specific stuff, that's not just a kind of bite-sized overview like what we do. Like check that book out. Or those books out, that whole series, and the website's really awesome too. But this one's called Animal Corpses Mark Trail Through Melonhead Woods. I live in Eastlake, Ohio, not far from Kirtland. I've heard many stories and seen many things in the woods of Kirtland. I've seen the burnt shack of Dr. Crow and saw the chain that the Melonheads hung its dead corpse from. So this guy's already like bought in. He's like, yeah, this is part of our town history, right? I could say as one person that the Melonheads are in fact real. Close by Kirtland, there is a small castle for picnics and barbecues. I don't know what a picnic barbecue castle means, but we'll go with it. And miles of hiking trails. When you walk down these trails, you can see some mutilated animals in the deep parts of the woods. I've been hiking in the backwoods for as long as I can remember. Not one time while strolling have I not seen a small dead animal and mutilated corpses and bones. That doesn't mean, as far as I'm concerned, that does not mean Melonheads, but hey, this guy likes to have fun with it, I guess. Mutilated corpses are reminiscent of that could go back to your government experimentation theory as well.
100%.
Cattle mutilations, Bigfoots, stuff like that. Okay, this one's called Bad Moon Rising over Melonhead County or Melonhead Country. The story, as I've heard it, is that Dr. Crow was a doctor who practiced medicine out of his house in the early to mid 1800s. Okay, so we have kind of a date set there.
A little bit, yeah.
He'd either been giving these kids with mental problems, but that date also conflicts with those other dates that we were looking at too. So again, this is all getting kind of muddy. Okay, he had either been giving these kids with mental problems or he had kidnapped some kids. Again, I've heard it both ways. He then ran experiments on them, injecting their brains with water. This caused the kids to become even more nuts and their heads to swell up like melons. Anyway, he kept them locked in cages in a green barn next to his house. Now, at this point in the story, it gets a little fuzzy. Either the barn burnt down in an accident, or a few of the melon heads escaped, or the barn is still there. I have yet to visit the old crow house, so I don't know if the barn is still standing or not. I'm more inclined to believe it burned down. So apparently there is a location where locals believe actually is the crow house, or the location of the burned down crow house. Anyways, these melon heads still roam the area out near the Holden Arboretum. Supposedly they came out only at night and it was a full moon. They are extremely vicious and will attack any humans they see. However, they have a hard time seeing. If you wear dark clothes, blacks, reds, dark greens, blues, you will be safe. If you have any bright clothes, white, you are a prime target. Is that a hate crime? You guys read my mind.
I was like, I will say that before we continue, that everybody keeps asking me for hate crime merch. They're like, "Can we get merch that says hate crime?" And I'm like, that actually low key sounds great. We should.
I'd love to explain that to
That's amazing
to somebody. Yeah, like as somebody walking by you, like, why does your show say hate crime with blood dripping?
With like be like, weird red ooze.
Yeah, be like,
we got some monies. I think I was late to this because it was at 3:00, and I'm sure that we were doing the Mike Barra stream that it didn't come in from Tracy Mary Lacey. Oh no, Brian L said love your show. Oh, Brian,
thank you.
Is he here in the chat?
If you're here, thank you.
Thank you. Much appreciate. There you are, Andy. Where the fuck have you been?
Oh, hey.
I forgot you're 12 hours ahead.
All right. Back on track, Bobby. Back on track.
Yeah, so, I mean, if you notice, these first two testimonials are basically hearsay in and of themselves. So far, we don't have any actual eyewitnesses. This is all, I heard about this. This is how I understand it. Okay, so the last part of that last one was usually they just attack deer and other forest animals. This is a story I've heard from numerous sources. I've gathered many stories from people who have been out there and from people who just know the myth. So even like this guy's like sources
nobody's
are
specific.
Like,
it's like just people. I went out and I had a bunch of conversations with people. Yeah.
So here's one that's an actual experience. This guy's claiming to have had multiple experiences. My first experience with what I think were melon heads was on the east branch of the Chagrin River. My brother and I were driving along Mitchell's Mills, and I saw a quick flash out of the corner of my eye. I looked right and saw something by a tree. It was very blurry, though. I was so scared I screamed, and my brother looked out of his window. What the hell was that? He said. I guess he saw it too, because he turned around at the spring and we headed back. This was near Mentor Road, which is, again, no actual description of the sighting, though. These people are just like assuming or like applying their, well, it must have been a melon head kind of thing. Which makes me like think, how often does this happen with like bigger cryptid phenomenon like Bigfoots, but like spooky story, like that was fact, that was not sci-fi.
No, that was not. No.
I don't think I would report a sighting if I had one of a cryptid.
Of a melon head. So here's one.
I deleted him. I thought Jamie didn't like him.
Someone told this story at a party in the summer of 1964. So this testimonial is literally someone told this story at a party. Someone else thought they knew where the Melon heads lived, so we were all crammed into the cars and headed out to find them. We got stopped by the police. When they found out where we were going, they gave us a stern lecture that there was no such thing, and we should tell our friends that there were no Melon heads. We were taken to the police station where we had to call our parents to come get us. So the fuzz is trying to get you off the scented trail of the melon heads.
Yeah, they're trying to tell you no melon heads here. You can't have melon heads.
Okay, the first part of that actually was some kids were driving around one day and saw a melon head watching them from the side of the country of a country road. They stopped and the melon head ran into the house, into the woods. They followed it deep. They followed deep into the woods, and they came to an old farmhouse. On the porch sat a middle-aged couple and several melon heads. The kids asked what was going on, and the man explained that he had a nuclear scientist. He had been a nuclear scientist during World War II. This is like some fucking comic book 60s horror movie shit. After the war, he married, but the exposure to the radiation caused all of his children to be born as melon heads. We already have another origin story right here in just this account. The government gave him a lot of money to keep quiet and bought this secluded farmhouse where he could live out their lives away from prying eyes. He asked the kids to tell no one what they had seen and never return. So, all right.
All right.
Do y'all want to do one more?
Yeah, do one more. Do one more.
Good, because I only have one
I have
more.
things to show you guys.
Perfect. Okay.
My name is Tony, and I recently had an experience with the melon heads. It was October 5th, 2001. Is this the one you were talking about earlier, Bree? My stepfather, mom, stepbrother, and me were driving down Chilocothe Road in Charlotte. We had been driving up and down the roads in the same area for almost an hour with no luck. We were just about to go home, and we came upon a stretch of road and had fields on both sides and an irrigation ditch running parallel with each side of the road. Just then, I looked out my window, and I saw him, a melon head. He or it was running along next to the ditches. Since the ditch was too wide to jump over, it was coming close, then pulling away. At the time, we were going about 45 to 50 miles an hour. The melon head was actually keeping up with us. Okay, so one of the most actual claim to be eyewitness account throws in some wild supernatural abilities that these things have.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's where we get into cryptid land, I think. And I feel like the more supernatural stuff is them reaching a little bit.
Yeah. There's just no. Should we just go to sci-fi?
I think that we should. I think
that
we've been doing this
we're
from
not
the
done
beginning.
here. What's the end of the story? Was that it?
Well, no. Wait. Let's see what Bree has to show us about the melon.
Oh no, it doesn't have to do. It's not related.
Oh, it's not related. Okay, perfect. So we'll factor sci-fi this then. Okay. So I'll kick it off. I'll go ahead. This is for cryptid wise. This is a hard sci-fi for me. This is not a real thing.
Semantics, though. Yeah.
This is an urban legend to me. This is not real. This is a tale that we tell people, and I am going to hard one sci-fi it. So,
Bree.
Go ahead, Bobby. Oh, Bree, go ahead.
I don't think it's a cryptid, but I do think that the urban legend has some credence. I believe it.
So, give me fact sci-fi.
Ooh.
I'm closer to fact than middle bitch.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the middle with you guys. I'm probably closer to sci-fi, but not a full one. I think that these things are based in some sort of foundational original origin lore, but any kind of eyewitness accounts, the lack of time frame that we can put on it, the various incarnations of it based on geographic region that's the same basically. I think there's some weird shit out in the woods, like with anything else, that maybe these things were based on. But I think that the urban legend asset of this has outshined the reality of it quite substantially.
So I think that based on everybody's ratings between the three of us, we're gonna have to. I guess it's it's a middle bitch, right? It's kind of in the middle.
We're a middle bitch. What is there a sci-fi middle bitch? Is there something?
I believe it more only because like I said, if I would have seen a cryptid myself, I wouldn't report it. So like, we're only relying on the dates and the times and stuff like that off of people that want to report.
Yeah,
but a lot of people don't want to report.
Compared to other high strangeness sightings, though, there are people that report this stuff. Unless this thing's just so
very,
rare and bizarre.
Area, kind of.
Yeah. But how specific is it if it's across 3 different states?
With the same general folklore.
Yeah.
That's the stuff that raises my red flags.
Wait, but how close are they? Because I don't know United States that well, because like I wasn't born here.
They're not super close to each other. They're like
I wasn't born here.
Ohio's closer, like the Midwest
I've never
area.
looked at a map. Don't expect me to know.
Michigan's
I was fucking born here. I was just kidding.
They're not like states.
I feel like I wasn't.
They're not states that are right next to each other.
Well, Ohio and Michigan are kind of Midwest Rust Belt.
Yeah,
they tomato potato.
Connecticut's New England, so I don't know.
It's like
they're married.
It's like a spackle. It's like a spackle.
It's a spackle of Melanie heads.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so I think we're gonna. Bree, what do you have to show us?
Oh, so I saw this and I was like, "What? Hold on, hold up. Hey." So when I saw Brazen Alien, Ella Bramata. So basically, I feel like this obviously wasn't a real cryptid. This was something that was created. And I still believe it. I'm still into it. I came across
whether created
this
in
video.
a lab or in a West Virginia shack.
West Virginia. I don't know.
Mountain Mama.
But I came across this video. I hope I can find it. And I was like, to Josh last night, I was like, what the fuck is this? And he was like, it's a goat. And I'm like, this isn't a goat. This is so different. This is not a goat.
Okay.
So then it made me think of like, could they be creating cryptids or find something that's weird and then housing them somewhere? Like, that's what made me think harder. I think as to like what a cryptid is. Is it something that's created in a lab? You know what I'm saying? I have to find it.
Someone
no. I was like, there's like a lot going on.
What kind of animal is this?
Can someone tell me what this is?
It's a goat.
What kind of
goat is that?
No,
I think that is like a
that's
real
what Josh
kind of
said.
goat.
Josh said it's a goat, and I said, what goat?
No, that looks like a cow that has some sort of facial deformity.
Okay, so then that's fine, but look at all the other animals behind it, because it also has the same face.
What kind of
behind it?
Yeah,
to the right,
to the
bottom.
Like
animal.
99% sure.
Can you guys find it?
Goat with a birth defect.
Andy said it's a real goat.
Yeah, I'm with Andy.
No, that's.
Then why are they all defected?
Because
It
that's
looks
way
big,
it's just a certain
like a
breed
cow.
of goat. Look at a fucking Shar-Pei. That's a weird looking dog.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird.
Doesn't look like a
things
German
out there.
Shepherd.
But so what you're getting at is what you're saying is that like they're breeding these weird creatures that people are thinking are cryptids. Is that
I'm
the
just
line?
wondering.
Wait, can you pause? Can you pause? Look at his big old balls hanging down there. Got big old balls.
Oh yeah, zoom in on that shit.
Yeah, right.
What?
What?
I don't
Yeah.
believe that this is a real animal.
It's a European goat.
I think it's something strange. And then it just got me thinking, like, who's to say that they don't capture these weird cryptids and then try to mate them and do weird experiments on them? Like, we have no idea what's going on out there.
Well, I'm sure that that's a possibility of something that's happening out there. Like, you have to remember that they are like cloning sheep inside of like fake wombs and stuff now, right? Artificial wombs. So like, who
So
knows,
gross.
like the weird thing. Why is that gross? Like, how? But that's what we as humans do. We are
'Cause we're
curious.
gross.
We have science, and that's the nature of our reality, I think.
Yo, read your audience's comments. There's people that are like, "That's a goat," and
okay.
I'm like, That's what I've been saying.
I agree. I don't understand why Bree thinks it's something weird. I don't get it.
I don't agree whatsoever. I don't care. I love you guys, but disagree to goat, agree.
Well, I mean, selective breeding's definitely a thing. There's like, you know, it's like it's possible that it was
exactly El Chupacabra hybrid. That's what I'm saying.
All right. Hey,
not everyone says. What about what we have on here? Is
all right,
that
what
a cryptid?
Aww.
You press play?
Yeah, because I was trying to start it over.
Yeah, I'm looking up Damascus goat, and sure enough, that's exactly what that is.
Yeah,
is it really?
Can you share screen, Bobby?
Damn it.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Share screen.
You know what? Even if it wasn't a breed before, who's to say they didn't create it? That's what I'm getting at. It looks to me like it's something from hell.
Can y'all see this?
Yeah, can you make one big?
Goats are so cute. This doesn't look
from the
that's
video.
a video.
Look at that. He looks like Popeye.
It's so gross. So who did they mate to get that ugly goat? Because all the other goats in the world are cute.
Other ugly goats. Look, this one's beautiful though.
There you go. Yeah, look at that one. That one looks like you, Brie. There you go.
That's a hot looking Damascus goat.
That one's Brie. There you go.
She's the talk of the town.
Exactly. Look at those locks.
Not like this.
Hell yeah.
Not this one. Yeah.
They're kind of cute in their own really ugly
They're
way.
not. They're not.
Look at this thing. I'd party with that.
He'd party with that?
Not like Wyoming party with it, but you know what I mean.
Wait, what does that mean, Wyoming party?
Oh, never mind. Here's one with like beautiful locks of ears. Look at this thing. I like how this is
these
like
are
slowly.
These are all normal goats.
No, that's what
some of them are.
Was. Look at this.
Maybe that's the male version. The female versions are attractive.
The Shutterstock selling this one. Like, if you want rights to this picture of this creepy ass goat, you got to pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like the end of times animal.
It does that.
Bestiality.
Look at these ears. Look at that. Look at those big floppy bunny ears.
Listen.
This thing's weird.
What I'm getting at is I think that they're mating cryptids with other things that are normal.
Fucking probably.
I'm saying, how do we know?
I love a goat.
Thank you.
I love
you too.
Stop.
Oh, wow. Look at that. Who put a toilet paper roll through his head?
That one's for you, Brie.
That's not me, though.
All right, is Bobby's Barnyard Corner over yet?
Yeah, are we done? Are we done with these?
We're done.
All right, you guys.
Thank you, everybody,
for coming out to Bobby's Cryptid Corner. We love you guys. We will not see you next week for Bobby's Cryptid Corner. We're taking a week off. We love you guys. We'll see you guys next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Follow Not For Everyone podcast.